Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. Today, I'll be your facilitator. Today is also a special edition because it's one of the editions we tag Conversations with a Mentor, which I try to do from time to time so that I can also transfer knowledge and also entertain questions and, of course, contributions along the subject line. One of the things that happen to many people is that, you need to work on your CV, get out your profile, your LinkedIn, and then what happens next? Either through your CV or through your application for a job or through your LinkedIn, you get invited for a job, for an assessment, for an interview. Sometimes one of the questions that you are asked during the interview is typically around, if you are successful in this interview process, what will you do in your first 90 days? What will you do in your first 3 months? What will you do in your first 60 days? What will you do in the first 100 days? So 90 days, 100 days, 3 months are metaphors. They may mean around the same things. In other words, in your early days. Now, you should listen to this session today or also invite people to listen if you are trusting God for a change of job soon, because during the interview process, you may be asked that question, or when you get that new job, you need to be able to answer some of these questions. Now, even if a new job is not in the horizon, the next 3 months can be a new 90 days for you on the job. And in the next 90 days, in the next 3 months, you can experience a radical makeover in your career. All right, so we are looking at navigating your first 100 days or 90 days as HR. Now, let's quickly look at the table of content. Okay, the table of content, the introduction, which we have started. What is a first 100 day? I've already alluded to it in some ways. Importance of a 100-day plan, types of reactions a new HR will encounter, typical context a new HR can find themselves, key relationships new HR can leverage, tools new HR can use to set their agenda before your first 100 days, pre-resumption, developing your first 100-day plan, 5 must-dos in the first 100 days, some key activities, data sources a new HR can leverage on, mistakes to avoid and helpful tips, a sample 100-day plan. Okay, then we'll look at the recap of the first 100, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. We'll look at transition framework, and then we conclude. Again, in 1 minute, we'll take question and answer, and of course, contribution. If you have any friend that should listen to this session, I give you 30 seconds to reach out to them. I assure you that today's session is going to be revolutionary. Okay, please pay attention. If you have questions, drop them in the chat box as we go, all right? And if you have contributions, want to share experience, feel free at the end of this session. All right, so 46% of new hires fail within the first 18 months, okay? And this is according to the leadership IQ. 46% of new hires fail within 18 months. In other words, people who join a new organization, and sometimes it is not because they don't have skills or technical know-how. It may just be a change in context. It may just be change of support system, okay? Again, 19%, in other words, 1 in every 5 can be declared unequivocally successful. That's according to the Center for Creative Research. So you just don't enter a new job randomly. You don't freestyle. You just don't enter a new job or a new role in the same job and you enter it with hope. Okay, this lady said it, and I agree with her. That is Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, when she was finance minister. She said, hope is not a strategy. So you just don't hope for the best. You prepare for the best. You package for the best. You strategize for the best. You plan for the best. So whether you're a seasoned HR professional or you are a first time in an HR role, resuming to a new organization, it can be a tedious task. new environment, new setting, new context, new management, new support system, different scenario. Your first 100 days as the new HR is the time to what? Build a foundation for long-term success, including setting your people and HR strategies. Now, let me say this. I know that there are different categories of people listening to this call right now. There are people who are young in their HR career, maybe 1 to 5 years. There are people, maybe they are in mid-HR career, maybe say 5 to 12 years. And then there are the senior people, maybe 12 years, 15 years and above. And of course, we have veterans, people who have done 20 years and the likes. Please pay attention. There's something in this presentation for everyone, irrespective of where you find yourself. And of course, I need us to also note that if in 1 year or 2 years time, you change your job or you get a promotion, please come and listen again to this session. You will get new insights to guide you. Okay, so with the desire to position yourself as a strategic partner whose function is critical, okay, to achieving organization's objectives, some questions that we need to ask ourselves. First question, what are the key actions and projects that should be my priority? Emphasis on what? Key actions and projects. Emphasis on what? Priority. So which means there may be 50 things to do, but what are maybe the most important 5, or the most important 10, or the most important 7? Otherwise, you could be very busy early in your new job, in your new role, and you are busy not focusing on the major things. That could be counterproductive. What will give other managers the right opinion of you and your department? Now, let me also say this. Some people will come into that new role, maybe as the head of HR, chief people officer, or you are just an HR executive, or L&D specialist, or compound-based specialist. It doesn't matter. You see, on a good day, when you are joining a new firm, generally, people may be neutral about you. If you are a popular person, people may already be prejudiced, positively or negatively. But most often than not, people are just blank. Okay, they are just neutral. It is the first set of steps you put forward, how you display your hands. Then people will begin to form an opinion, an impression. However, the reality is that for most people, there is a slogan that says that first impression matters. Most of the time, the first impressions you project in that your new organization, on that your new role, if you are not careful, it may be difficult to erase it, especially if it is a negative impression. So what is the best way to begin? What is the best approach to adopt? Okay, so a first 100 day, again, I mentioned earlier, that 100 days like a metaphor. It can be 90 days, it can be 3 months, it can even be 60 days, it can even be 30 days, 1 month, but it's just a phrase or a term for early days. Okay, so you need to approach it in a structured way so that you can add value. All right, it's typically a plan that consists of a timeline along with a series of goals, mini goals that you want to achieve. And you can do this using, for example, existing templates, or you may also develop your own template. Now, importance of a 100-day plan. First, a 100-day plan can help you navigate your new environment. In other words, you are not freestyling. You are not leaving things to chance. Okay, helps you to set concrete yet achievable goals that align with both your ambitions and the expectations of your new employer. Please, those two considerations matter. The expectations of your new employers, then your own ambition. Some people sometimes will just focus only on the expectations of the new employer, ignoring their own employer. What happens? You will not be fulfilled. You will gas out too easily, and you will be dissipating energy and you'll be burning out. Please marry the two, the expectations of the new employer and your own ambition. Okay, 2, these plans can be very useful for managing your expectations and your priorities. Okay, expectations, priorities. Typically, your priorities should focus on activities, initiatives, programs that would deliver on your expectations. A new job often involves a certain amount of uncertainty. This is very normal. Ladies and gentlemen, this is very normal. You know, a new job will come with some degree of uncertainty. No matter how prolific you are, no matter how proficient you are, no matter the kind of experience and exposure you come to the new job with, it's a new terrain, it's a new setting. It may come with, why am I sharing this? So that when you are experiencing these uncertainties, some bouts of nervousness, you are not out of place. In fact, you are in the right place, okay? The new responsibilities may give you some concern, may look initially overwhelming. Things are a little first difficult when it is new, when you are fresh, okay? But as you progress and as you come up with a plan and as you deploy the plan, you begin to hit the ground running. If I'll give this webinar another title, I'll say how to hit the ground running. A 100-day plan can also help you hold yourself accountable. It is perhaps most often used as a what? A measure of success. In other words, when you have a 100-day plan and you are implementing it, and then it's time for your performance appraiser, it's time for your probationer appraiser. Because you have a plan and then you have a checklist, you have KPIs, it will be easy for you to project to the management, to the leadership, to your line manager, what you have done. So let's even say for one reason or the other, you were not given a KPI by the organization, which is unlikely. But in that remote scenario, you have a catalog of what you plan to do, what you have achieved, and it's very difficult when you have a report to show your results to say you will not be confirmed within, say, 6 months or 3 months, depending on the time frame. Okay, lastly, but not the least, okay, a 100-day plan will ensure you are doing your job well, getting used to the new company's culture. Also, it can be very useful, okay, for your own future career advancement. You can set the tone, you can project the right kind of impression and positive effect. Now, I hear people say things like, oh, people, they don't like me. I don't know. When I just got there, they were hostile. Oh, now, that is why I have this next slide, and we'll be talking about it in a few minutes. This is also normal, natural. It doesn't matter whether you're in Lagos, whether you're in Abuja, whether you are in Canada, whether you are in Connecticut, whether you're in South Africa. These are typically different type of reactions. But before I show what I've written, so that you will see that we are thinking in the same light, in the chat box quickly, in your own words, preferably a phrase, what are the kind of reactions as a new HR or a new staff that you think people will show towards you, display towards you? Fastest fingers now in the chat box. Quickly, what are the likely? Just type one and send it. And if you want to type multiple, type one, send it, type one, send it. What are the, so you can either share with us right now the kind of reactions you have either experienced or a friend, a colleague has experienced. Okay, fantastic. So I will quickly read and mention some of the reactions. So I will not duplicate a reaction. That doesn't mean I didn't see your feedback, but I will just call only unique reactions. Okay, now somebody here, Prince, says you may meet hostility, and it's to some extent it can be valid. You don't know the experience of the members of the organization. You could also meet people who are very expectant. Okay, I like this person. The person toned hostility down a little, said dislike. Gobiel said you may meet people who are trying to intimidate you. Okay, Ajoke, my sister, says you may even meet skepticism. Maybe there are people already in the team. They will be saying, where are they bringing you from? Who are you? What do you know? Why didn't they promote somebody from in the internet, from the inside? Felicia said you may meet people who are hesitant. Sheryl is even showing me an emoji, an emoticon like, who be this? Where are you from? Fantastic. Okay. Tim Tokpa says you may be looked at, especially if you have a young face. Okay. Imagine now if you have a young face and then you are genuinely young in age. Okay. Age indifference. Okay. High expectations. Oh, Bukola, I love that. Bukola said people may welcome you with love. You know, now why I like the term indifferent. Mother Teresa said something and I will never forget. Mother Teresa, she said that hate is not the opposite of love, that the opposite of love is indifference. In other words, indifference can actually be worse than hatred. You know, it can actually be worse than hatred. Fantastic. I'm still checking your feedback. So, some people don't want to take your orders serious because you're a fresher. Some people will look down on you because of your stature. Some people want to test your competence or your knowledge. Oh, some people want to even compete with you. Let me also see if I can see any unique contribution. Let's keep it coming. We want this class to be interactive, engaging. Please don't multitask tonight. Stay with me. Now, let me show some of the things I've put down here, and you will see that many of the things you have rightfully said, you will see that we are in line. Now, people will attempt to frustrate you. Now, this is not in any particular order, okay? And you may not experience all of this. You may experience one or some. People will attempt to frustrate you. Why are we trying to show this to you? So that when you meet this kind of scenario, don't enter into a shell. Don't think it's the village people that is following you, okay? These are different. The funny thing is, let's assume you enter an organization of 200. The people in that organization is most likely that different people will show you different things. Some people will show you love. Some people will show you content. Some people will belittle you. Some people will embrace you, all concurrently. So it's not a very easy place to be and to manage, but you need to be aware upfront so that you don't experience a shock. So people will attempt to frustrate you. Some people want to test your knowledge. Some people want to test your integrity. They can send a vendor to you to, lure you, to give you kickback, or to say, let us program your incentive into the contract. What do you want? Please, you need to be very careful. Now, of course, you should be honest all through your career, but especially during the early days, because some people will intentionally want to test you. Some people will warm up to you. Some people will feed you with misinformation. This is very important. Immediately you are landing in an organization, some people will embrace you. They will say, let me give you a gist. When did you join? You are a fresh RB. Oh, Mr. A is like this. Mr. B is like that. C is like that. This is the cousin of the chairman. This is the uncle of the owner of the former boss. Different information. Some information will be correct. Some will be malicious. Some will be misinformation. Please, receive the information, but you need to sieve it. Some people can poison you, for example, about your team members or about some senior people. Okay, it's good to have the information and be guarded, but don't have information and begin to use the information to react negatively. It can be counterproductive. I've had information about people that they say they are nasty, and I saw that they were nice to me. I saw eventually that they were nasty to people who are either laid back or have poor attitude. So me, I was hardworking, I was proactive, and they loved me. What if I had reacted negatively, saying they say this person hates people? Okay, people also want to play on your innocence or on your lack of historical data. There will be some people, maybe they've had issues in the past. They've tried to get it resolved through the system. Because you are new, because you are JJC, they will want to leverage on you, thinking JJC, you won't know what to do, or you won't have enough information and you make the wrong call. There will also be people with legacy issues, historical issues prior to your arrival. Okay, there will be people who want to push their own agenda. Okay, there will also be people who want to push the boundaries. Okay, there will be people who approach you with an open mind and support you professionally. Okay, it's also important you note that some people will be completely open, they'll be very professional, and they will give you all the support. So don't go there and expect that everybody will want to frustrate you or everybody will want to support you professionally. All these scenarios can play out. If there are any other ways you think, please drop it in the chat box. I'll pick the information up later. Now, the next thing I want to quickly show, okay, and it's very important, but let's also rub minds together. Okay, let's rub minds together. I want today to be like even though it's a webinar, to be like a workshop. In other words, very hands-on. Again, apart from the kind of reactions you may find, and with, to a large extent, rub minds on this. The next thing is, what is the kind of context you will meet? If you don't understand the context, you may apply a wrong solution in a wrong context. Now, I've given you one hint already. There's a context called owner manager. Okay, in Nigeria here, on the street, we use this lingo, one man business. But in HR palace, the real expression, the real phrase is what? Owner manager. But if I just say owner manager, one or two people may say, what is Oluyemi talking about tonight? Owner manager is the same as what? One man business. Now, quickly in the chat box, what are the other types, okay, of context that a new employee, new HR can meet? Quickly in the chat box, okay? Please feel free, share your thoughts. Don't be afraid of saying the wrong things. Nobody's judging anything here. We are together, okay? Quickly, thank everyone who has joined so far. 87 people are on the call. We have space for 13 more. Try to make sure that your network doesn't throw you out, because very soon we hit 100 and that will be capped. If you are prone, you won't be able to come in. Okay, fantastic. Oluchi said it can be a family-owned business. In other words, one man is one person. Family can be maybe husband, wife, or daddy, mommy, first son, second son, third son, first daughter, second daughter. It can even be family, uncle, nephew, aunts, in-law. Okay, it is very important that you understand these dynamics, because these different dynamics will slightly affect your approach to your new job. Okay, you may not be able to change the ownership, but there are different levels of wisdom that you need to manifest. Okay, I need us to respond and provide context. Okay, but let me move on and show you what I have. So it could be a startup. Startup means they just started the business. Now, there are different levels of startup. Okay, and there was a time, for example, Globalcom was a startup when it was new, but it was a big startup, because you can't start a telecoms company without it being big almost from day one. You could also be, some of these fintech startups that they have Series A, they have funding, foreign direct investment. So it can be startup that is small. It can be startup that is big. It can be a PLC, okay, which is a public liability company, which means it's quoted on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. There are a board of directors. Keep your thoughts coming. It can be a multinational. I was hoping somebody would mention that before now, but it's okay. Many of us, when we're in the university, when we're in secondary school, we wanted to work in the shell of this world, the chevron of this world. We wanted to work in the Unilever, the Cadbury, multinationals, organizations, corporations that are in multiple nations: Nigeria, Kenya, Canada, Holland, Pakistan, Rwanda, and so on and so forth. Okay, it can also be a politically exposed or a politically dependent business. I won't mention it, but there are some organizations today, if the government in power ceases to be at the state level, that business may fold up. If you know some of these organizations, you can type it in the chat box, but I won't mention it. There are also some organizations today, if the government in power in the center, ceases to exist. In other words, there's a transition from one party to another party. The business may either fold up or experience significant reduction in business. Let me see if anybody has mentioned anything in the thing. Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, please? Please confirm you can hear me. I don't know why someone. Fantastic. Yes.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay. So as we are discussing, politically exposed. Don't call me. Others can hear me. So as we were saying, okay, then I can see a hand. Just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Okay. All right. So, if you join a politically exposed organization, it doesn't mean you just have a strategy. Maybe the year is 2020. You will know that, okay, in 3 years' time, if they lose office or lose election, the way you will save and plan and you will work yourself is different. Okay. All right. So let's continue. as we continue, it can be a group of companies. You know, a company like a group of portfolio, they will have 5 branches, 10 branches. When I say branches now, I mean maybe a pure water company, they're into toiletries, they are into trading, they have a microfinance bank. The dynamics in a group of companies, you may be the HR, may be in the group or in one of the subsidiaries, but you will also be required to provide support. It can be an ethnic-based company. Now, please, this conversation is strictly in the HR space. Don't put politics, what is going on. And what do I mean by ethnic-based? So I've worked in a business that was completely Igbo. In fact, when I was a member of the management, of the 10 management staff, only 2 of us were Yoruba, and there's nothing wrong with it. It was one of the best places I worked in my life. I enjoyed the place. It could also be a business that is predominantly Hausa or predominantly Yoruba. The thing I'm trying to show is that, so if it is predominantly Igbo, it will, or Hausa or Ibibio, whatever it is, or predominantly French or predominantly German, okay, and you will need to have an appreciation of the German culture, general appreciation. If it is from South Africa, you want to say, how do the South Africans think? Do you understand? So that's what I'm trying to communicate by ethnic base, not to hate or denigrate any ethnic, but there's cultural intelligence, there's ethnic intelligence. Maybe some cultures are more, demand more respect than the others. So if you are working with a culture, take my culture, my tribe, Yoruba, for example, you may need to be a little more courteous and respectful. Otherwise, you just see Oga hates you. It's because Oga sees you as confrontational. Meanwhile, Oga is judging you from an ethnic lens, and you two are approaching it from another ethnic lens. Both of you are not wrong, but who has in the balance of power, who is senior, okay? It could be a family business, like some of you alluded to. It could be a traditional business, as in something very local. It could also be a business that is struggling to survive, In other words, maybe the business, they are borrowing to pay salaries. Sometimes, no matter how you do your due diligence, you may not have this information. But when you join and you begin to see the cash flow, you will now see that the staff salary they pay every month is more than the salary, income, revenue. It's important to understand this context, because you can't join a business that is struggling to survive and then you come and say, let us double everybody's salary. Or you say, let's be doing TGIF every Friday. No, you know, the kind of context to find yourself or you put yourself will determine the kind of programs you will put together. So I'm intentional. It can be a business that is maybe one man, but is trying to institutionalize. It wants to become structured. It's trying to transition that, oh, God forbid, if the one man dies, the business will continue to run. It's not all one man businesses that are bad. I've been in some that they transited successfully from one man, even though that one man was still part of the team, but it institutionalized. You know, everything was not the MD has spoken or the chairman has spoken. Wisdom and reasoning and the best ideas prevail. They had committees, they had delineation of duty. People could challenge any idea. Superior argument was the order of the day. It could also be a business that is trying to scale up. Are you with me? Okay. I'd like to know your thoughts. I hope you are getting the feel that if you are in any of this, you cannot have one approach that will, you know, speak to all of this at the same time. What will work in A may not work in B, or may work in C, but not to as high as it will work in E. Okay. You could be in a government, maybe federal or state, or a parastatal, okay? It could even be an NGO, and there are levels of NGOs. And it can be a multinational NGO, you know, all these Bill Gates Foundation, those levels. And it can also be Oluyemi Adeosun Foundation. There are levels, okay? It can also be a faith-based organization. Some of these churches now have HRBP, okay? So if you are working in a faith-based organization, your orientation must be different, because they may not be commercially or profit oriented. Let me just take a breather right now. Again, is there a kind of relationship I may not have mentioned and you think is important? Drop it in the chat box so that for the benefit of the people joining us this evening, so that they can also glean from your wisdom. So the next thing I'll be speaking to, okay, we have a lot of ground to cover and we will cover it, God helping us. There are also key relationships you have to leverage or you can leverage. It may be on all or on some. You see, one of the things I realize sometimes when people are given a new job, new role, or new opportunity, they don't take time out to do what I call stakeholder mapping, to see who are the people that can provide one form of support or the other. Now, let me say this. There are some people, they may not necessarily be able to provide support, but they can withhold support. I know what I'm saying may look a little funny. Some people, it may not be for the support you need them to provide that they matter. They may matter because of the support they can withhold. Some people can choose to be neutral, and if they are neutral, when they are supposed to be positive, it will harm you. So, in no particular order, and these relationships may not always also matter in every context. So don't say because Oluyemi said my predecessor. God forbid, what if your predecessor died? You have to move on. What if your predecessor Japa went to Canada and is not picking your calls? But try to connect with your predecessor. In quite a couple of places I've worked, I've had the opportunity to either meet my predecessor so that maybe what do we call it? Their notice period coincided with when I resumed. So we even met physically. There are some, at least I was able to get their phone number to call them and maybe arrange for a meeting, and some were very warm. I've been in places where maybe the predecessor was very bitter, very hot, some genuinely so, maybe the organization didn't treat them well and they have a right, but at least try and open a conversation with your predecessor. There are some things that may not be in the handover notes, but they can tell you if they see you. They may not tell you on the phone. They are not sure whether you are recording them. They are not sure whether you have placed the phone on speaker. But when they see you one-on-one and they interact, so what I typically do, you don't have to do it. I take my predecessor for lunch or for dinner so that they can relax, very relaxed. Okay, buy drinks for them. Some people, once they take 1 or 2 bottles, they relax. Then they see you like you share things. Maybe you even check them out on LinkedIn. You may be privileged. Maybe there are people both of you know in common. By the time you say, oh, so you know YF, so you know this, you know that, you know this, you know that, you know this, they warm up to you, okay? And they are able to say, okay, these are the kind of things you can do, you cannot do. They'll give you insider tips, okay? Things that might have taken you 2 years to discover. They will download their wisdom onto you. Then, especially for HR, the CFO or the finance department, okay? The CFO and the finance department, okay? So if you're a junior person, at least there are also junior people in finance that you can pally, you can run ideas to. It's not easy for HR to succeed if you are at loggerheads with the finance department or with the CFO. Again, in some instances, especially if you are senior, even if you are junior, when you resume, there will be HR team members on ground. It may be 1, it may be 5, it may be 10, depending on how small or how big that organization is. Don't join the organization and let me give an example. Maybe the other existing HR members, this is just an illustration. Maybe they are not CIPM, they don't have SHRIM, they don't have HRCI certification. Don't go there now and do like this. No. There's an adage in Southwest Nigeria that says, is the person who meets in the village that is the father. You must honor, there is an honor you give people because you met them there, especially during the early days, especially till you can mature and get all the information you have. But me, I typically do it, even if I stay there for 10 years. There's a way I respect people I meet on ground. It doesn't matter their age or your status, okay? Then HR colleagues in the industry. So maybe you join a company in the food and beverage sector, try and network and liaise with other HR in other food and beverage. Some of your issues will not be peculiar to your organization. You can easily glean from their insights, from their experience. Now, you may also want to leverage on the existing organizational vendors and also regulators. So vendors may be your printers, people who provide you certain kind of supplies. Okay, so for example, you provide lunch in your organization. The caterers, they are your vendor. You quickly want to tally them up. And you may have institutional vendors or regulators. So maybe in your organization, the ITF area manager, okay, your HMOs, okay, the NSITF office, depending on. Don't wait till you have a problem to initiate the relationship. I hope you get what I'm saying. So by the time you are developing your, say, 100-day plan, a visit to all these regulators will be very helpful. Sometimes, if your predecessor is around, are we together, and they have existing relationship, if your predecessor or somebody from your organization who has been visiting them goes with you on the visit to say, oh, meet my colleague, Oluyemi Adeosun, he may be coming from time to time. It will help, enhance the transition, make the transition smooth. I hope you are getting something, okay? So you will need to take a mental note or, put it in your schedule of what to do in your first 100 days, okay? Now, if it is also a unionized environment, the union leaders, you want to quickly initiate a conversation. It doesn't have to be formal, it could be, one-on-one with them. It doesn't have to be, you don't necessarily need to call all the union executive at once. You may be meeting them one by one, the president or the chairman, the secretary, finance, just engage with them. They will feel elated and happy that this new person has some respect for them. Now, opinion leaders, sometimes these opinion leaders may not always be senior. It can be a driver that has been there for long. Let me give you examples of some opinion leaders I've met in my career. I'll find out that, for example, the chairman or the MD's driver can be a very useful ally. Can I get a witness on this on this webinar tonight? Maybe the driver of the CEO, if you treat them well, they can be very influential. It can be a cleaner. So please think outside the box. It's very easy for us to say, oh, the CFO is a strong guy. He may be a cleaner. He may be a driver. Okay, irrespective of the status of the employee. Okay, then generally, the management team, please. Sometimes you can see 2, 3, so to speak, like camps or divisions. You see certain alignments in the management team. As a new person, find a way to tally across all the camps. Don't just go and align with one camp. You don't know the day you will need input, support, collaboration from the other camp. Find a way to be neutral and so on and so forth. Okay, so if there are other relationships that you think we should leverage on, please drop them. So for example, Kelade Bamidele said you may also want to leverage on the secretary or the PA. You may want to build a rapport with them. I agree with you 100%. Sometimes these people can be gatekeepers. I've been instances where the PA will tell you that, this thing you want to discuss with Oga is not in a very good mood. Can you delay it? And you delay it maybe till later in the day or the next day. You will even be the one to come and say, you can come now. Oga has been smiling and you get your approval. Don't take any relationship for granted. Beatrice, thumbs up. Kudos to you. Beatrice said, Oga's relative that work in the organization. Oga's relative. Okay, there was a time I worked somewhere, the HR manager reporting to me was the chairman's niece. Thank God I got that insight early and I built a strong rapport. And the rest is history. I was able to strive and prosper intentionally. So watch out for what? Relationship. Okay, watch out for relationship. Now let's quickly look at some tools a new HR can use to set agenda. So let me say this. I won't expect you to use all the tools. I'm just giving you examples of tools to use. Again, even though I'm putting forward a lot of tools, please You are not required to use all the tools. For those of us, I mentioned earlier in our group that if you could have watched some of my earlier presentations, it will help you in today's video because I won't dwell too much on the tools. So for example, I mentioned that there was a session I did not too long ago on how to answer case studies. And I used one or two of the tools extensively in that videos on the YouTube, Oluyemi Adeosun, check Oluyemi Adeosun on YouTube. Watch that. Anybody, even if you don't have a case study, don't wait till you have case study tomorrow to go and look at it today. Watch it this week. Put it as part of your learning, personal learning development. How to answer case study. Very powerful. I mean, very powerful. There have been testimonies, literally, of how people's career have changed just from that video. Okay, all right. So let's look at some of the tools in particular order. Particular order. Okay, so first of all, and this is a very common thing, SWOT analysis. Okay, which SWOT stands for what? S is an acronym for strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. Simply put, take a sheet of paper, or what do you call it, a flip chart, divide it into 4. Put strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat, and maybe brainstorm with your colleagues or some of your colleagues. By the time you say, what's our strengths, you flesh it out. What are our weaknesses? You point them out. What are opportunities? You point them out. What are our threats? Point them out. Once you do that exercise well, you'll be able to say, what are the actions you can take, for example, in 90 days to address some of them. What are the long-term actions? It will help you to say, what are the immediate pains in the mind of the CEO? What are the immediate pains in the mind of management or from the board? And then you can begin to work on it from a logical perspective. Also, gap analysis. Okay, so they say, ask you when we're doing an interview, you are planning to enter as head of HR or as HR, they say, what is the first thing you will do? One of the first things you should do, apart from some other things, is a gap analysis. You want to know where are we supposed to be? Where are we? What is the reasons? What are the reasons for the gap? Okay, if we are supposed to be at 100 and we are on 50, why are we not at 100? Gap analysis, very simple. There's another simple technique. I'm sure some of us have either participated maybe at a retreat or a meeting or a team bonding session. It's simply called stop, start, continue. Stop, start, continue. What are and it's by asking questions. What things do we do today that you think we should stop? And people will mention them and you list them out. What are the things that we are not doing today that you think we should start? People will mention them and you list them out. The last one, what are the things that we are doing and you want us to continue to do? People will mention them and you list them out. So you have a program for the things you want to stop. You have a program for the things you want to start, the new things, new initiatives, new projects, new programs, and then the things you want to continue. For the things you want to continue, how do you want to continue them? Do you want to revamp some of them? Do you want to enrich some of them? Do you want to enhance some of them? Okay, I hope we're getting value. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope this program is meeting your needs live and direct. I hope you are picking one or two things. All right, so start, stop, continue. Then there's another one, it's almost like stop, start, continue. Okay, we call it run, improve, and what? Transform. Okay, transform means what do you want to change radically? What do you want to change radically? Improve means what you need to enhance. It may be a marginal improvement. Okay, and then run, what do you want to run away from? What do you want to run away from? The other one is a little technical, okay, but not really, but it's more elaborate. The McKinsey 7S. McKinsey 7S is a theory by the McKinsey Consulting, and the book is a strategy, is a tool that is used in a couple of HR and management. So you look at the organizational structure, look at the organizational strategy, look at the organizational systems, you look at your shared values, you look at the skills or competencies, you look at the style, the management style, leadership style, you look at the staff or employees. By the time you audit all these areas, There will be things to do, to change, to improve, to transform in all of these areas. Again, we are HR people. We also have David Ulrich model. It's a very simple model which speaks to the 4 cardinal areas HR should focus on. First, as strategic business partner. Next, as change agent. Third, as what? Administrative expert. Fourth, as what? Employee champion. Again, you can just use a flip chart, okay? Divide it into what? Into 4, okay? And then write strategic partner on top on one corner, change agent on one corner, administrative expert on one corner, employee champion on one corner. What do you do? Based on each of these quadrants, you come up with things you need to do. Now, the beautiful things, again, about using a model, it helps your thinking to be robust and holistic. So it's not as if, if you are not careful, you may just go and focus on maybe 5 things, but all the 5 things will just be change agents. While that would be good, you may go and suffer in the area of being administratively inefficient. You may focus on the employee and the management to say, this guy is just fighting for staff. It's not helping the management or the business. So this, when you partition your sheet of paper or your Excel sheet or your Word document, and you touch base with all these 4 areas exhaustively, your 100-day plan will be robust. Your 100-day plan will meet the needs of all the stakeholders. So don't forget that as a new HR, you want all your stakeholders to be happy with you. Not that only the management will be happy or only the employees will be happy. You want the management, the employee, the board, the shareholders, the customers, all the vendors. You want all your stakeholders to be what? Happy. Last but not the least is the ADI model. Okay, you analyze, you design, you develop, you implement and evaluate. Okay, so these are some tools. Of course, there are way more tools than this. But if you use 1 or 2 or 3 of these, you are already starting on a what? On a sound footing. Please, please, please. And perhaps this is one of my strongest strengths in HR. HR, our job is to think. There are tools to enable us to think. Use them. HR, let me say this again. HR, okay, they don't write it in our JD, job description. But the first assignment on our job description is thinking, thinking, thinking. Please quote me anywhere. When they say, what do you do every day? You think. There are tools to help us think in an organized fashion so that we can be robust, we can be thorough, and we can be comprehensive, okay? So that our greatness will shine through, all right? I thank the over 90 people who are on this call so far. You can still reach out. We have space for 9 more people to join at least. Please don't drop off. It may be difficult to come back in. We are getting value. We are gaining value. We are sharing value. Thank you to everyone also dropping their thoughts and comments. Please keep your thoughts and comments coming. Even if you have questions, drop it. You have points to reinforce and support our conversation. Please drop it. Please don't blink. All right. Now, there are some things you need to do pre-resumption. Now, even though we are talking about a 90-day plan, a 100-day plan, a 3-month plan, there are some things you will do or must have done before day 1. So let me use this analogy. It's like a man and a woman planning to get married. There are things for that, not the wedding now, for that marriage to be meaningful, based on your own definition of meaningfulness. There are certain things you should have done maybe during dating and courting to make the marriage journey impactful. Are we together? Now, I just put 4 things here, but I will encourage us to drop more points in the chat box, okay, so that I can also see your thoughts and everybody on this call can also glean from your knowledge. Now, the first thing you need to do is to glean information about the organization. There are many ways to glean information. You can do what we call a desk research. In other words, you are fact checking on Google. For example, you are using Glasgow. You are using even sites like Nairaland. There are some organizations, when you type them and you go to Nairaland, the kind of things you will see Yes, again, you may need to take some of the information with a pinch of salt. There may be exaggerated information, but they say there's no smoke without fire. So on Glasgow is a foreign site where people, typically ex and current employees, drop their thoughts and opinion about the organization. They rank them in areas like compensation and benefits, work-life balance, career development, and so on and so forth. Now, another thing you can do, look for somebody or a group of people or individuals who work there. Take them for lunch, you may meet them in your church, your area, your club, your alumni. Check on LinkedIn. You may see that you know one or two people who work there. Get information. Now, getting information doesn't mean that when you get the information, everything will be rosy. But if some things are not going to be rosy, but you know upfront, you can prep for it. You can prepare for it. Are we together? Another thing that is very important, which is the second thing. You see, as you are planning to join or put pen to paper to sign a new contract, check your online presence. So I'll share an example. I won't mention names, both the name of the person and the name of the organization. But it's an HR person. This lady had gone through the entire interview process, and she did extremely well, like 3 stages. In fact, they gave her official car, they gave her club membership, very juicy package. So because it's the head of HR, the MD now mentioned to the board members that, oh, this is the person that we are planning to hire. We are just going to sign the contract next week. And mentioned her name. Guess what? One of the board members said, that name sounds familiar. Just give me a minute. Guess what? That particular lady had dragged that board member's company over a delay in delivery. Please pay attention. So that board member is actually owns another company, which is into packaging and distribution of food and things. There was a delay. And then on Twitter, you needed to see how this lady washed. Now, I'm not saying that if you are unhappy with a delivery or a service, I'm not saying you shouldn't complain. But then when like 6 people on the board saw the complaint and the kind of words she used on the complaint, they unanimously said, MD, are you sure we're not making a hiring mistake? That was the end of the recruitment. So let me just say, maybe you are obedient. You have been using funny languages against Batified. Go and clean them up. Maybe you are Batified. You have been using funny words against the articulated. Go and clean them up. Maybe you are a Man U fan. You've been using foul languages on Chelsea fan. Go and clean them up. Put your online presence in order. Remember that Oluyemi Adeosun told you this. I just shared, it's not a testimony because it's not possible. I just shared a real life experience of somebody I know and an organization I know. A very juicy package with official car and club membership, among other things, just because of our dissatisfaction and the choice of words and language. Put your online presence in order. Maybe tonight, some of you need to go and start deleting some of those things before people will go and screenshot it and they will show you receipts. 3, okay, try to exit your current organization graciously. There is a common language we use. We say, don't burn bridges. I understand, ladies and gentlemen, that some of us have been hurt. Some of us have been messed up. I'm not going to sit here and deny that I don't know. I know quite a number of people, even in HR mentorship or outside other HR people, that have called me and cried. Some have called me. By the time they tell me their story, even me, that I'm supposed to be counseling, I'll be crying with them. So I'm not going to say you've not been hurt, but please, don't look at their behavior, look at your future. Don't just get a job and just resign anyhow with immediate effect. Do you understand? That's why I've chosen this word carefully. Please, as much as possible, be at peace with all men and women. Exit your current organization gracefully. Do your handover notes, put everything in order. In fact, work so hard, let them be in awe or in disbelief that you are taking a walk. Let your last 1 month or your last 2 weeks, whatever your notice period is, let it be the most dedicated period of your career. Close out on task to also avoid interruption in your new place. You don't want to get to the new organization and every day, people are calling you, Oyinkan, Loretta, Francisca, Funke. No. Close it out as neatly as possible so that you can focus in your new organization. I put this last one there, but it is important. To be honest, the presentation we're having today, I've been on it for 3 months, putting the thoughts and the flow and the material together. I also have a team of people who work with me, my research team. And I'd like to thank them. Many of them are on this call today. Thank you, my research team. You may think it's small, but it's not. Put your wardrobe in order. There are instances where certain organizations, you may need to go and buy, beef up your wardrobe. I'm not saying you don't have enough clothes. You may just see that they like suits here, or maybe you need 2, 3, 4 more. Your shoes, invest, polish, those kind of things. You need to be intentional. Let me use another example. Maybe you join a fintech, you may also need to, business casual. There are certain, type of wears that when you start dressing that way, the youth, in quotes, will warm up to you, especially for some of us who are approaching 40 or crossing 40. You don't want to look like Mama or Baba today. You want them to be warm towards you. I remember on a lighter note, one day I just wore a Timberland. You needed to see how some of these 24-year-old guys are saying, that boss. But I hope you get the picture I'm trying to paint. Your wardrobe. So for some, it may be more formal corporate wear. For some, it may be more funkier, more trendier clothes. In other words, context matters. Okay, and for some, you may need to buy the traditional Igbo red cap. It may change your life. Okay, so developing your first 100 days plan. I know some people, they just imagine that once we start this webinar, we'll just go to the 100 days plan. You will understand that the context and background we have elaborately put together is very important. Okay, because context matters. Most people are intelligent. They just fail to discern the context. And so they were putting effort and energy, deploying a wrong strategy, and they got an undesired outcome. Okay, so you need to review your job requirements, your JD. Okay, you need to look at your JD, you need to do some research. You also need to create a timeline. I'll soon show you in a bit, a timeline. So don't have a plan that there's no schedule. Don't have a plan that there's no framework, that there's no roadmap. It can be in Excel, it can be in PowerPoint. In a bit, I will show you. You need to set goals, okay, so that it can be submitted, other people can vet it, okay? All right, so let's look at a few things now, okay? So during the 100-day, okay, you want to connect the goals of the HR function to the goal of the business. So it's not just to have lofty HR programs. Yes, you should have lofty HR programs, but those lofty HR programs must connect to the goals of the business. In other words, one of the things you do as soon as is convenient, what is the business plan for that financial year? What are the strategic plans for that financial year? Collect it, identify them, tease them out, so that when you say, I will do TGIF, what are you speaking to in the business goal? Oh, I will do succession planning. What are you speaking to in the business goal? Identify the greatest sources of pain. You can have lofty ideas in your head. So you want to solve some problems. They may be genuine problems. They may not be the most pressing problems. Again, you want to hit the ground running. So you want to identify the greatest sources of pain for your immediate attention so that you can prioritize the solutions. Okay, you want to also create and adhere to a comprehensive plan to guide your function and as business partner, on the way. All right. You want to also be able to what? Build and communicate. Pay attention carefully, please. You want to be able to build and communicate a compelling quantitative case. Look at that. You want to build, you want to communicate a what? Compelling quantitative case for a change within the function and throughout the organization. That means data. You want to use numbers. You are not using emotions. This is not love. It's not mushy. Okay. You want to be able to do some analysis, and we'll look at that in a bit. Fifth but not the least, you want to create a personal brand as a business leader and as a change management agent. You want to create, don't forget that your dressing is part of that personal brand. Okay, very, very important. Now, so please pay attention. Please, we are now in the midst of the conversations. I'm going to be sharing some key activities to you, but not necessarily in a particular order. Also, you may not necessarily do all the activities. Just pick what works for you in a particular context, in a particular time. That's why I said, if you change your job in 1 year's time or 2 years' time, please go to the YouTube and watch this again, and then approach that new opportunity with a fresh perspective. Okay, all right. Okay, draw up a draft plan and share with your line manager. Why are you sharing with your line manager? You are just coming from outside. You are new, or you were inside before at a certain level. You just got promoted to a higher level. Your manager has a bird's eye view experience, and they'll be able to give you feedback and comments and say, drop this, add this. Next, you need to review all policies. I mean all. You see, when you enter a new place, you inherit assets and liabilities. If, for example, their employer handbook is faulty, maybe there are some clauses there that is even against the labor law, you want to quickly identify them and make the necessary amendment very early on. Okay, you don't want to be working with a faulty or a non-robust, non-comprehensive policy or outdated policy. So all the policies, the handbook, the HR processes and plans, you want to quickly review them. You also want to quickly review and get familiar with the organogram, the vision statement, the mission statement, and the values. And where necessary, you may need to propose amendments, enrichment, and so on and so forth. You want to also identify the key stakeholders and meet with them. We've already dealt with that earlier, but it's important. Identify and then also meet with them. You want to quickly review exit reports, exit interviews. You want to look at data sources like employee engagement surveys, maybe the last 2-3 editions. You also want to look at previous audit reports. So if you have an internal or external audit exercise, what were the outcomes of this report? Why? Any issues that were flagged in the past to be flagged under your watch. You want to also make sure that the profiled solutions are sustainable, or where necessary, you can even further deepen them and further enrich them. Are we together? You also want to review staff documents and file. Now, if you're in an organization that there are 3,000, you may not be able to review 3,000 staff files. You do intelligence spot check. But if there are 100, 200, please check it. Please check those files. Review the checklist first of all, and then check maybe next of kin, beneficiary, all those kind of things. Check. Don't God forbid, lose a staff to discover that there's no next of kin and beneficiary. You can't claim that they onboarded the staff 2 years before I joined. My brother, my sister, if you can't personally check yourself, get 1 or 2 people. Sometimes when you have interns, corpus, sometimes these are some of the activities they can do, like a quality assurance, but also do spot check. Some of these people are not patient. You give them 200 files, they will check 20, just tell you all correct, knowing that you won't double cross check. So review, please. please, please, please. I don't want you to enter one chance. I don't want you to have a big problem. Okay. You want to understand the culture of the organization, both spoken and what? Unspoken. You want to understand it, both spoken and unspoken. Okay. You want to try and see, maybe, it's an 100-day plan, 3 months. After 4 weeks or in 2 weeks, meet with your manager. After 2 weeks, meet with your manager. Evaluation, get feedback. You also want to agree with your line manager. You want to set your KPIs for your confirmation based on the gaps you've identified and the corporate goals. You want to set it. You don't want to, you are now 6 months. They are now saying we won't confirm you. You will now be shocking each other. You'll be surprising each other. No, we want to have clarity. What am I going to be measured on? What are the programs? What are the projects? What are the initiatives? Lead the conversation, my brother. Lead the conversation, my sister. Don't, at this point, as HR, we cannot afford to be at the receiving end. We cannot afford to be victims. I remember I was speaking somewhere recently and I was saying, HR, we cannot be playing defense anymore. This is 2023. We must play attacking football. We must play attacking HR. Be on the front burner. Okay? We are not at the receiving end. We are the giver. Understand the business plan. Understand the business strategy. Understand the year's challenges, prospects, and opportunities. As much as possible, also ask for your predecessors' handover note and review it. Sometimes when you review it, you want to put a call through, you want to set up a lunch, breakfast, a dinner, just to discuss. There are also things that may not be documented in the handover note, but may be material for you to know. Okay, looking at some key activities, just to check. Let me just catch a breather here. I hope you are picking one or two things, please. Ladies and gentlemen, drop comments on the chat box. Let me feel you. Let me feel your energy. Use an emoticon, an emoji to describe how you feel so far. Okay, show me feedback. Give me feedback. Give me reaction. It's performance that plays out time. Thank you so much, Oyebanke Kolawole. On this your fire, I will fire out. Okay, please ask. You can join an organization and they have court cases. Ask. If you don't ask, one day you will just get a letter from a lawyer. Ask, are there unresolved issues? Ask. That's why you must have a checklist. That's why I took the time and the pay to put this together. Some of these things are some of my own pains or some of the pains of other senior colleagues that, through conversation. Ask any litigation, any unresolved issues, so that when you know upfront, you can begin to prepare for it. Show good example. So let me use an example to show good example. Don't join an organization as the new HR and you'll be coming late, especially in the early days. It doesn't matter that your house is far. You knew where your house is before you got that job. At least the first 2-3 months, try and be early bed. Okay? Show good example. Again, check for statutory compliance. Immediately you get there, your first 1 week, first 1 month. Don't just say, do you people pay tax? No. You will say, please, can I see evidence of tax remittance? There are two different things. So I would like to reiterate this point. Don't ask, do we pay ITF here? Don't do that. Ask, can I see evidence of our ITF remittance? Are you hearing me? There are two, because some people say, when I got there, got to the organization, I asked them that they pay pension, and they told me they pay. We are playing attacking football. Don't ask if they pay pension. Ask the finance, can I see evidence of disbursements? Please check your statutory compliance. If also, let me quickly add this here. Let's say you have third-party vendors. Maybe you outsource your cleaning, you outsource your security. Ask, touch base with the third-party vendor. They should show you evidence of their group life insurance. Don't just use mouth to say, do you pay group life insurance? Because if, for example, a security man dies on duty, your company can be jointly and severally liable. When you are new somewhere or you are old and you have not done some of the things I'm mentioning tonight, it is do it tomorrow, Monday morning. Check the payroll. Sometimes there can be mistakes or errors in payroll. Assuming you are using Excel, try and rerun some of the numbers yourself or get someone to rerun it. You can inherit error. May we not inherit error? But much more importantly, when you inherit error, may we spot it immediately so that check, double check, cross check, validate Don't just say that's the payroll that you met. Rerun the numbers by yourself. You are new. In fact, if you do some of these things, you may be able to identify problem areas and profile solutions quickly. Imagine you quickly detect payroll error. You are already building a reputation that you are thorough. Ask, is there a training plan? For example, training plan has it been shared with ITF? Those kind of things. Is there an HR calendar for the year? What are the milestone activities? What are the key activities? What is the performance plan that is on ground? What's the performance cycle like? What management things? Also, this is critical, very important. When you get to a new place, especially for people going to a new place, there will be people you are meeting on ground. Maybe they have HMO. Don't take their word for it. Ask for the SLA that is signed. Don't just collect an SLA via email that doesn't have signature. Signed SLA. Emphasis on signed, my people. Brothers and sisters, emphasis on signed SLA. Don't be lazy. I know you are busy. Read every line. Please read it. You may pick something by reading it that will let you know how to manage relationship going forward. Look at the HMO. Maybe you have a food vendor. Any kind of vendor. I'm not exhaustive here. Any kind of vendor that HR is responsible for managing. Check for the agreement. Read the agreement. Check that the agreement is still valid. Some people, the agreement that they are using has date. The date has expired. The day you want to call on the agreement, when something major happens, you will hear it has expired. Please, some of us here need to go and check all our agreements. Are the dates still valid? Review any available HR analytic reports. Maybe you've done some analysis, this gender analysis, variance analysis, state of origin analysis, any kind of HR analytics that you have done. Okay, confirmation, promotion, those kind of things. Review it. Come up with a gap analysis. Very important. Come up with a gap analysis. It's not one thing to identify gaps, it's another thing to address the gap. Identify the gap, do a program to address the gap. Okay, then there should be timelines, both short term, medium term, and long term. They say Rome was not built in a day. You cannot put all the problem of the organization and you want to solve it. Don't also go and set targets that will overwhelm you and make you come across as a failure. When you identify a problem, they will say, now you identify the solver, please apply sense. Again, as you are looking at timelines, which should be reasonable, put into consideration all the regular, daily, periodic tasks you have to do and all the special tasks you need to do. Are there budgetary requirements and provision? Are there certain other stakeholders, internal, external, that you need to collaborate with? What are the outcomes? So you need to factor all these things into consideration. Another thing you need to do, ensure that you get a great onboarding yourself. We are HR. We typically plan onboarding for other people. Sometimes when HR is resuming, if you are not careful, there may be no proper onboarding plan. Make sure that you have a proper onboarding plan. Ask for a job description in case they didn't give you during the interview process. Maybe when you apply for the job, there was no JD. Ask so that at least to a reasonable extent, you can know the scope. There are people on this call, I won't mention it right now on this call. When they went for HR job today, 70% of what they do is secretary. Now, there's nothing wrong with secretary. The problem is they didn't tell them they will come and do secretary work. They hired them as HR executive, but they're now doing PA work. Let it be clear upfront. If it's HR and secretary, no problem. Let me know upfront. Let me be okay with it. Review all the existing employee engagement and wellness programs. Even if they say they do TGIF, don't just say you do TGIF. Okay, that's good. Ask, what do you mean by TGIF? What are the constituents of the TGIF? Is there a budget for it? How do you? Some people will tell you they do TGIF. Later, you will discover that it's the staff that is contributing the money. Is that also TGIF? I'm not saying anything. No. I don't want you to be surprised. I need you to have full, detailed information so that you are not what? You are not assuming. Now, I've listed quite a number of possible action points, initiative steps Again, it's not exhaustive. Let me say here, if as I was talking, there are other steps or initiatives or action a new HR person should do, please drop in the chat box. I will say one more time, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, if there are, as a new HR person, if there are steps or activities or action points that is impressed on your heart or that, as I was speaking, dropped in your mind, drop it, please, on the chat box. All right, we are all contributing to this particular conversation here. So what are the data sources? What are the data sources that a new HR can leverage? Data means, where are you going to see information? Where are you going to see information? Some of us, we are sitting on information goldmine, but we are not aware. And when you enter a new place, it's even more difficult because there are now information in pockets of places and you are not aware. And if the people there are hostile, they may not give it to you if you don't ask, if you are not even aware that it exists and you don't ask. So I'll just mention some quickly. Your HR analytics reports, the kind of different reports you have been doing over time. The organizational and HR strategy document. Some organizations have 5-year strategic plan. Collect it, review it. Some will have HR component. Some will even have HR plan. The HR budget. Please, is a very important thing. When you join the organization, it doesn't matter whether you join in October. I remembered when I joined one organization a few years ago, I joined in October. It was 3 months to the end of the year. So in my first week of joining, I asked for the HR budget. I received it. And I called some of my team members. All the items of the budget, I said, let's take them out. The ones that are not done. All the ones that they've not tried to activate. I said, so let me give you an example. We didn't have a projector in the department. I said, this projector, is it that you requested for it and it was not purchased? They said, no, we just never asked. Immediately, I raised the requisition for the projector. There was supposed to be a whiteboard in the HR office so that when we are brainstorming a strategy. To cut the long story short, I made like 4 requests after reviewing the budget. 2 weeks later, I had everything. They now told me that, okay, you are an action man. They said, you know that last year we had projector in the budget, we didn't buy it. 2 years ago, we had projector in the budget. You need to see how that projector enhance and enrich our work. If you don't ask for the budgets, you won't know what is available. Maybe there's provision for TGIF and to what extent. Then you may need to ask for the employee database. You may need to ask. Thank you, Olabode. Olabode says you may also want to review SLAs for colleagues in the outsourcing space. You want to know the terms and conditions governing the kind of service they are rendering. Very beautiful input. Very fantastic contribution. Okay, employee database, check it. Maybe you have a lot of employees that are 59 going to 60. If you don't check quickly, analyze it, and know the kind of peculiarities that you have so that you can either make provisions to support or to mitigate or to augment. You want to look at the payroll. Payroll is a good data. Please, you need to. The organogram can be a data point. The organogram can quickly maybe show you vacancies and so on and so forth. Stay interviews or exit interviews too. Stay interviews, ask for it. Exiting, by the time you check the last 50 people that left, their complaint and their feedback, it will be enough to give you insight as to how to develop, what do you call it now, employee retention programs. The employee surveys, okay, the pulse checks, okay, the audit reports, the employee handbook itself, and or conditions of service. Very useful. You can also check online. I mentioned earlier, Glassdoor, Netherlands, and so on and so forth. You can also have focus groups. Call people, say, what are the pain points? People are embodiment of data. Okay, union leaders, opinion leaders, management team, especially when you meet them one-on-one. Okay, now let's look at, as we begin to try to round up. Okay, let's look at a few things, helpful things. So, and especially senior people there, you'll agree with me that where you're coming from, you succeeded. Then you enter into a new terrain. chances are that you want to do copy and paste. Copy and paste. So be wary of reinstalling your former organization in this new organization. Yes, you may be able to copy, but you may need to modify. And sometimes you may not copy. Why? The context is different. The settings are different. The stakeholders are different. The resource availability is different. So you need to understand. So please be wary of trying to reinstall your former organization here. It's a different place. Again, another thing you need to be conscious of and wary of, ladies and gentlemen. Don't get to that new place and immediately, instantaneously, you begin to find faults. You begin to criticize. Is this how you people do here? Is this what you people do here? Hey, you guys are not serious. So you mean you don't? Why those faults may be real, why those concerns may be genuine, it will rub off negatively on the people you are talking to. And people who are neutral or who are accommodating may transit from being accommodating and neutral to being despiteful. I will say the truth here. Some of us, not all of us, some of us in some instances, the reason why some of our colleagues dislike us, I don't want to use the word hate, it may be strong, dislike us, is the kind of comments we made when we joined the organization. That was not our intention, but we were condescending. We made it feel, oh, I am from Harvard, Lagos Business School. I'm extremely knowledgeable. I came from top 4 consulting. I came to the industry. You guys, you are not at the same level. Subtly, it wasn't intentional. So please, even if you want to criticize something, if you want to prefer, Stephen Covey said, seek first to understand before you are understood. Before you mention something that is wrong or inadequate that you want to become better, look for 2, 3 things. Oh, this thing, fantastic. This thing, now, it shouldn't be flattery. So it should be real things that they're excelling at. Oh, you like 1, 2, 3. However, for 4, I want to propose. Also be gracious. Know that some people, based on their intelligence, based on the available resources, based on management support, have put sweat and blood to get it to where it is. To you, it may be nothing. To you, it may be pedestrian, but some people have cried. They've burnt the midnight candle. This is emotional intelligence. This is political intelligence here. Never try and say, you guys have done really, really well. Okay, so to up the ante, let us do. Don't go there and rubbish what they are doing. Don't become a fault finder. Leverage on the wisdom around you. All those stakeholders that we mentioned earlier, they are sources and pockets of what? Of wisdom. We are almost home now. I can see Folani has dropped a question and we'll come to it in a bit. And the question by Folani is, what if you are the only HR in the organization? It doesn't matter. There may also be only one person in finance. Liaise with that one person. Okay. Leverage on, that's why we spoke about the scope and the type of organization and setting. It doesn't matter. The principles are the same. Is the application that you will tweak and tinker with. Okay. Now, this is just a sample 100-day plan. This is what your 100-day will look like. For those of us who are somewhat familiar with project management methodology, there's something they call a Gantt chart. Okay, something to show like start time and stop time. Okay, it may be more complicated than this, and it may be simpler than this. And this is by no means exhaustive. But I know some of us, we like templates, want to see something, and that's why I am showing you this. That's why I'm giving you this. So this just also not in any particular order. You will see that on the horizontal axis, I put specific dates, March 15 to March 18. March. So what you are seeing here, each period is a week. Each period is a week. So you will see the first thing here. I said induction, 3 weeks. I highlighted it, induction, 3 weeks. Then I said gap analysis from week 2 to week 7. You will notice that no gap analysis in week 1. What do you even know for you to be analyzing? Are you feeling it? Then I put data gathering, okay, from what? Week 2 to what? Week 5. So you can see expected time and end date. There may be variation because you are working based on limited knowledge and sometimes based on enthusiasm. You know, you are eager to hit the ground running to deliver. Now, I now said recruitment of pending roles. So typically as HR, there may be pending vacancies when you get there. You quickly collect those things and then you put a time frame. And look at this, I said from week 1 to week, depending on the seniority of the roles and the complexity of the roles. So some roles, maybe they're entry level, may need maybe 2 weeks or 4 weeks. If you are looking for CFO or CEO, you may need 2 months. So that's why I have that there. Then I put here review of existing policies, and I put a duration of about 6 weeks. Now, this is a function of how many. So if they have 48 policies, you may need 6 months for it. But if they have only 2, so don't say, oh, Oluyemi said this must be. No, it depends on the volume, the complexity, the number. I also have here now drafting of new policies. So there may obviously be some policy gap, maybe some things that they don't have any policy around. It's also a function of how many policies do you want to draft. Is it 1 or is it 5 or is it 10? And then you can put on a plan. But you see that for me, for drafting of new policy, I'm starting from week 4 because you need to have certain understanding before you begin to create certain policies. And then you will see that it extends to the last day of the 100-day plan and beyond. Some things will continue as long as the organization exists and as long as you're here. I also put review of what last year's budget. Okay, I put review of HR forms templates. Don't just say, oh, this is the form we use for interview. Check it. Is it adequate? You may tweak 1 or 2 things. This is the new employee form. All the forms and templates, collect and check it. Some may be okay as it is. Some may need subtle adjustments. Some may need major reforms. Okay. I put here review of what employee survey and exit reports. Then I put restructuring. Yeah, you may need to restructure a unit, a department. Yeah, I put remote work management, performance management, and confirmation of new hires. Okay, I put succession planning. Okay, review of employee engagement and retention programs. Okay, I put here review of the employee value proposition. Are we together? Then I put international and consular staff management. Okay, maybe you are in multiple countries. I also put here culture review. But look at that. I put it towards the tail end of the 100-day plan. Then workforce planning, compensation, and benefits. So this is just like a synopsis. Thank you so much, Chidima. Said this is very helpful for me. That is just entering the HR space. Adekoya say, can you share the 100-day template? So what I can do, Adekoya, if you're in any of the HR groups, drop a message for me there. I'll drop it in the group. Don't drop it tonight. I'm going to sleep after this webinar. So you understand what I mean. Drop it. I'll share it. There's no problem. I did this webinar for you guys. Okay, I had to develop it. I've never done this webinar before in my life. Never presented this anywhere in my life. So I had to construct the slides and think through with also some of our colleagues and volunteers who supported me. Okay, so this is just a sample. Let me just also show you in some other areas an example. Now, if you look at this is like a 60-day plan, and you can see here, link admin strategy, admin needs, collaborate with sister agency, peer review with sister agency, source for funds, cost control, manpower planning, okay, database creation, dashboard for. So this particular 60-day plan you are looking at was for a company that was brand new. In other words, the company was just set up. Okay. And in fact, this is a live document I did for as part of my recruitment exercise for the organization. So I just picked it from there, and you can see I have color code. So you can also be, what's the word now? You can be creative around it. Look at the color code. Green means strategy. Blue means needs assessment. This color, is it amber now, means finance. Gray, staffing needs. So you can be creative. You will see that this particular 60-day plan is slightly different from this particular 100-day plan. So I'm trying to show you that it's not as if it is just only one way to do it. No. So you can take one of these templates and then garnish it. Maybe something comes to your mind. Don't say, because Oluyemi has done it, doesn't make it perfect. It was perfect for what I needed it for. Are we together? So you can see this now. I use color code. So they will say, oh, there's strategy in this plan. There is needs assessment. Now you say, I didn't use the word gap analysis. Here, I used what? Point 2, gap analysis. Here, I use the word what? Needs assessment. Gap analysis and needs assessment are synonyms. Okay, so that I don't want us to be fixated on nomenclature and so on and so forth. Okay, so I now put here the last point here. I put yellow means continuous implementation. Okay, let me see. All right, so this is just both tracing on the immediate past slide. I put the activity and then I try to put a justification for every activity. So there are instances where you need to justify every activity. If you don't justify it, it is very easy for management or the MD or your line manager to say no. Okay, when you put a justification, okay, so look at point 18 here. I said e-tracking system for fleet, vehicle movement log, maintenance log, motorcycles, boats. What is the justification? To prevent theft, to also be able to track vehicle movement. Okay, you may also, so some of us already have that 100-day plan, but we didn't do justification. That may be a takeaway for some of us. So let's just recap before we go to contributions and question and answer. Some people have started dropping WhatsApp messages for me. The Lord will bless you for me and bless me for you. I'm not going to check any WhatsApp tonight. It's till tomorrow. As I go to law. Okay, so let's recap as we begin to custom. Thank you so much. Well, over 90 people who joined this session. And thank you to everyone who will also be watching this via YouTube. Drop your comments in the comment section. It will be very helpful, both what you have learned and feedback. All right, so let's just do some recap, especially for those who didn't join us from the very beginning. Try to interact with everyone, collect all the information about the business you are joining, the industry, very important. Understand the vision, the mission, and culture of the company, very, very fundamental. The vision, mission, culture, very fundamental. Okay, take feedback from your manager, maybe every two weeks. Don't wait for them to call you, maybe on Friday after week one. I spent 1 week. Any initial preliminary feedback, ask for feedback. Feedback is the breakfast, lunch, and dinner of champions. Ask for feedback. Don't wait till the end of the appraisal period and then you'll be served breakfast. Ask for feedback. Okay, start defining the transformational agenda. Okay, identify the gap, take the initiative to fill it up. Okay, make a strategic long-term goals. Okay, get your resourcing right, very important. Set up accountabilities. Okay, now as we recap, okay, I got this from a program I participated in, and it's called the Transition Framework. So I'm not the creator of this. I can't remember the name of the author, but I think it's very useful. Okay, and Transition Framework means when you are new in a place or new on a role. You know, it's also a synopsis of what we've been talking about since. Okay, you need to establish direction, like a focus. Please secure early wins. Make sure that within your first 1 week, do 1 or 2 sharp things. Let people know that there is a new kid on the block. Let them say, wow, because you want people to be pleasantly impressed and surprised. Secure early wins, whatever it is, secure early wins. It's not everything that will be long term. Otherwise, my leader in HR, Keynesian theory propounder, Bernard Keynes said, in the long run, we are all dead. You need to survive the short term to be in the organization the long term. So these early wins will keep you enough to now do things that are long term oriented. You need to create alliances. All those relationships we are talking about. You need to gain alignment. Alignment is important. You need to match your strategy to the situation. In other words, the context. Don't just copy and paste. You also need to accelerate your learning. There are new things you need to learn where you are. There are old things you need to unlearn. Okay, then you need to build your team. It doesn't matter whether you are the HOD or you are just a supervisor or you are just an HR executive or HR analyst. Develop relationship with your team, add value with your team. So as we conclude, Kefi said that the primary task for the executive, okay, in the first 100 days is to set out the right strategic priorities and focus on them. Set out the right strategic priorities and stay focused on them. The first thing is the right priorities. If you have the wrong priorities and you are focused, the outcome will be suboptimal and disastrous. Okay, so there's a huge amount of work to be done. Assessment and analysis need to be done. It's important not to get discouraged by the size of the task ahead. It is critical to go through this process because it is the only way to get your subsequent actions right. Okay, we'll take questions and then we will call it a wrap. Take questions. Also, please, if you like to contribute, maybe you want to share insights, I'm too glad to allow us. I will, so I'm making Rita Babalola a co-host now, so you can actually unmute yourself. Rita, please.
Good evening, sir. This is a wonderful presentation. This is what some people will pay so much money to get value on, and this is us having it on a platter of gold. I must commend you. You're really, really an in-depth presenter. You're a good facilitator. I attended the Room Business School, and this is another feat that you have done. In terms of my own contribution, you've made mention of it when you said sometimes as HR practitioners, when we get to new organization, what normally happens is we have a preconceived idea of what we want to do. As soon as we get the offer letter, people have started reenacting what they think is wrong, what they think they're going to do. In fact, was it on last week? I put it on my LinkedIn profile, a story about Ada. Yeah, I think it was Thursday or Friday. Ada, someone like an HR person, it was a real life story, but I paraphrased it, and it was supposed to be a series 1 and then to come up with a series 2. So you just gave me, in fact, a rich knowledge of information that I'm going to use for series 2. Okay, so come back to the story at hand. Is there's like people, when they have their offer letter, have a preconceived idea that they are coming in to be a messiah. The use of messiah, sorry if I think I'm using the wrong choice of word, but then, like when Jesus came into the temple and saw the Pharisees and things like that. So that's the perception most of the HR practitioners have. They are coming into a new organization. They've already discounted in their head what they are going to change without having to study the environment. And then the use of tools that you have mentioned. I've used the McKinsey tool before, and I think it's so very important as HR professionals. If we can read more about the McKinsey 7S, it's actually used mostly for HR management tools. It's very, very useful. So I want to suggest that most of us should try to read outside this context, try to go through the HR McKinsey theory. And then also very important as HR professionals, when you get to a new place, always be wary of people that will come up to you with stories. They're always full of people that will come and tell you what has happened before, who to be close to, who not to be close, so that you have a pre-gentle idea of someone. Even though you have not even had any interaction with the person, you'll find out at the end of the story, or at the end of the day, you'll be acting the script for another person's drama. Instead of you forming your own idea, you have this preconceived idea that, oh, they've told me to be wary about this person. They told me to be wary about this other person. So I think this is really a very rich content. Thank you so much, sir. So that's my humble submission. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Rita. Thank you for your contributions. Very impactful. Don't go with that mindset that you are the Messiah. You know, another way to express it is don't go as a lone genius, as if only you can do it. Even if you have the capacity to do it, once you come across as that, you will see the Pharisees and Sadducees will gang up against you. They will intentionally frustrate you. So you want to go from a conciliatory perspective. You want to create a sense of it is our program. It is our restructuring agenda. Okay, I see one or two other hands up. All right, I will ask. I don't know who Daddy and Mommy Rush is, but you have the floor. I don't know if it's Daddy or the Mommy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oluyemi. Thank you so much. It's actually an insightful session for me. I must confess that you're a true prophet. You actually designed the heart of men and be able to come up with this story. Thank you so much. So my question is, from what you've explained so far, it appears the new HR is the one doing all the tasks, like is the one going, getting information and all that. So I want to ask, are there tasks that you can delegate to your team members among all the tasks that you've highlighted so far? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So you see, I probably didn't mention this directly. I may have alluded to it, but let me say it expressly. So, again, I said that the people on this call are in different phases of their career. So the takeaways for as of today may be different, and then progressively they'll get more takeaways in future. Now, if, for example, you join a team as head of HR, one of the things you should do perhaps in the first 48 hours is to do like a team analysis, like a profiling, go through like their CVs, like a skill inventory, interviews, engage with them one-on-one to identify their strengths. The reality is, once you delegate something to someone, the risk is on you. So if the person does a shoddy job and then it backfires, as the leader, you will not be able to say, oh, I call so and so to audit the staff for me. You are the one that assigned the task. So what is the temperament of someone that can audit a staff? Apart from having a checklist, you need to be patient in a way. You need to have a certain personality type or calmness of mind, presence of mind. It's not everybody that can be just checking documents, especially if there are a lot. Anybody can check 5 documents. Not anybody can check 150. Okay, so feel free, but assign the task based on the fact that you've done skill personality analysis and you probably have maybe gotten their buy-in, and then make sure that you give a volume and quantity that they can handle per time. Why? You want to make sure that you have data integrity early in that phase of your journey, so that any other thing you build on that, you are not building on a fallacy, you are not building on an error. By all means, feel free to delegate. But like they will say at restaurants, packing is at your own risk. Do your due diligence. All right. So I would like to take Ebenezer Anagun. You can unmute and make your contributions or ask your questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Oluyemi. I'm glad I was privileged to join the session tonight. Can you hear me, sir?
Please go on. Please go on, please.
All right. All right. So, okay, I just want to say something based on what you made mention during the course of the presentation, and Mrs. Rita Babalola has also pointed it out, but I want to take it a little bit further, where you said that when we join organization as head of HR or HR for whatsoever, that we should not go there with air of want to change things overnight and begin to condemn every other thing. But what I want to say is that, I have a personal experience, which you know. I want us to, as much as possible, to include this in our onboarding of the leader we employ in our organization. I say this with all due respect. I once engaged a GA that when he assumed office, he wanted to sack almost all of my high performing staff, because probably people are giving them attention and everything. So, and as an HR people, we manage the culture of organization. So I want to really beg us that going forward, when we want to do induction, we should see how to introduce all of these things to induction of leaders in organization, people in the suit role or people in senior roles. That I don't know how we can do it, whether Mr. Oluyemi can address that anyway. But when we bring new leaders on board, we need to really let them to know that, of course, we have team before they join, and they are coming to contribute their own culture, not to condemn and begin to attack and fire this on no basis. I say that because somebody also asked a question that what happened to someone who is just an HR person in organization? You don't have a team of HR, you are the person there. That's my contribution. Thank you once again, Mr. Oluyemi.
Thank you so much, Ebenezer, for your contribution. Oluchi, you have the floor, please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for this webinar today. I want to really appreciate you for all that you've been doing for us free of charge. And I want to tell you that the webinar you did on the case study, I wasn't there, but I listened to it on YouTube. And shortly after I listened to it, I had a reason to use it, and it was really helpful in getting me more marks and got me a step ahead in one of the chats I had recently. Thank you so much. So I want to now make my my question is it okay? Someone once told me that when you have interviews and all that, you can ask your, not like if it's head of HR position, you could ask whoever is at the top of management you're reporting to what the business would want you to achieve using the HR department in the first 3 months, like what is their actual challenge. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you so much, Oluchi. In the presentation, I also alluded to that. Okay. Oh. Only you cannot generate the action plan. You cannot exclusively singularly generate it. You will remember at some point that I said there is the expectation of the organization, and there are also expectations that you have. So as HR, based on your experience and exposure, you will identify some things they may not necessarily have identified as a problem, or they might have identified it. It may not be a pressing problem from their perspective, but as an HR professional, you may know that this is more fundamental and needs urgent attention. But there must be a balance. What do you guys want me to do? I'm just saying, maybe they give you 5 things. You to identify 5 other things that you think must be done, then have a program of execution, and then you deliver it side by side. And as you are doing what they want you to do, they are happy. As you are doing what you identify you should do, they are seeing the results and they are also happy. Okay, so that will be my response.
Okay, I have a contribution. Sorry.
1 minute, Oluchi. Oluyemi Adeosun, you are not raising your hand, but I think you should say something. So get ready to say something if you are not in a rowdy place. Oluchi, continue with your contributions, please.
Okay, so I want to contribute on the getting a JD. You said we should try and get our JD prior to resumption. It's very important. I had an experience where it was for an NGO, and when the JD was published or something, it has something to do with, I might not get it correctly, but wherever you are, whatever you're doing, when a baby is crying, you drop all that you're doing and carry the baby, irrespective of where you are or what you're wearing or something. So I didn't just understand that. So that was somehow a flag for me. So it's important we get the JD so that we really know what we are going there to do, if it's what we can manage. Then secondly, for us, if we are getting into places, we should also find out if it is an industry where we want to work. For instance, if you can't stand blood, Don't go and start applying for job in a hospital because it might affect your deliverables as a HR person. You find it difficult taking medication, you go and apply for a job in a pharmaceutical company. You're going to go to the lab where they are manufacturing the medications. How are you going to manage the people there if you are not able to stand the smell of medications? So let us also take our own personalities into roles we are applying for, in as much as we really need to move, we need to get another job. Then you talked about the union leaders, opinion leaders and all that. I've said it once in one of our meetings, that in your engaging the union people, don't always expect the company, the management to fund your meetings with the union members. I'm speaking from experience. For you to get the union on your side and help you deliver as a HR person, you will need to spend your personal fund. So in making your plans for your personal expenses, from your salary, there are some certain expenses you make out for the union people, and there are some that you can channel to management. So when you take them out on your own, you have that buying, you have that personal relationships. There are certain times, because of how you've related to them, they will come to you as you, and not as HR for management, but as you, because they like you and they want to help you out. Then for our predecessors, let us also check our environment for our predecessors. I'll speak from my own experience. I had an experience, I had a predecessor, we're still within the same company, but it was different region. But when I got there, it turned out that people were very, very loyal. We had a relationship before she left out of anger because of whatever was happening in the organization. But she had a stronghold where some things would happen in another branch, maybe in the north. She would even hear it before the people in head office and all things like that. And there was already story. Something would happen before you hear, they have gone to tell her. She will now call somebody within the region where I was to confirm that somebody called her. Did this happen? So it turned out there were so many stories going back and forth, and I didn't want to be in the middle of it. So I had to put our relationship in a cooler for me to even get a hold of what were the people I was dealing with in that location before I could go back and start our relationship where it was and where it has always been. So let's also be mindful of our environments and how we manage our predecessor and people within the system that might want to put us at loggerheads with our predecessor. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oluchi. That was quite enriching and well appreciated. I don't know if you have any other comments, but I'd like to shout out to a few people tonight. Just indulge me. Thank you so much, Joke Omotayo. I see you. Thank you so much, my beloved Father Francis. Thank you. If you want to say something, Father Francis, you can unmute our video co-host. Thank you so much, my sister Esther Olushoga. If you like to say something, you can unmute. Thank you so much, Mr. Dele Ogunyale. Just trying to say hello to a few people. I can see Mrs. Adiola Dekpegba, member, Governing Council, Chartered Institute of Personnel Management. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And to every other person, I see my sister, Loretta Odoro. Thank you so much, my sister. I appreciate you. We should do dinner or lunch one of these days. I'm saying it publicly. No, I will pay. Don't worry. I know you're a big woman. All right. It's okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time and patience. I also see my big sister. I saw her just now. Let me see if she's still on the call. Okay. I suspect she's no longer on the call. Okay, thank you so much. Shola Aware, thank you. Beatrice, I'm not sure. Are you raising your hand? Beatrice, yes, are you raising your hand?
Mr. Luko's hand is up.
Okay, Femi Aluko, Oluwafemi Aluko, please. We'll take yours as the closing remarks, Femi. You can unmute.
Thank you very much, Oluyemi. Thank you for that really insightful presentation. I've really learned a lot, and I must say, I'm one of those people why you actually did this presentation, because I'm going to need the knowledge, I believe, soon. So I just wanted to make a comment on the templates that you displayed regarding the template for the 100 days, the 90 days, the 60 days one. And then one of those things I realized is that, so the one you shared was for HR managers majorly. And so that would mean that for whatever role that anybody's coming into, you actually need to adapt that into what your role is. For example, as an LRD person, I just assumed, a role recently, all right? And so in that case, I would have to actually look at the things you have on the template and then look at what are the things that pertains to L&D, and then those are the things I am going to use when it comes to my timeline. All right, so not just taking what you have said, because some things that may not work for me as an L&D person, speaking to an HR manager templates now. So I wanted to say that. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the session.
Thank you so much, Oluyemi. Very impactful. I'll ask beloved Father Frank Elume to speak now. A template is a template. A template is not copy and paste. A template is copy, modify, and use. Okay, you will hardly ever get a template that will meet you 100% of the way. Maybe 50%, 80%. It helps you to shaping your thinking, and you are very correct. So if you are not in a sub-specialization, then you just tailor your mind. Father Francis, please. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Yeah, good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me louder.
Yes, loud and clear. Oh, I think is a...
Okay, so I'd like to thank you very much for this presentation. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, even though it's breaking.
Okay, so I want to thank you most sincerely for this presentation. I see a detailed work preparation that has gone into this. You covered a lot of grounds, and I'd like to say to participants today that everything you have said is actually very relevant. It shows attention to details. Anything is too small not to desire attention. The very little HR professionals into trouble. So my attention to details, the things that actually cause.
Okay. I think the network is fluctuating, but thank you so much for your contributions and for your commendation. So as we round up, I think somebody dropped a question here, and the question is around what are the list of policies that one should maybe check for or ask for. The honest answer is that there's no exhaustive list anywhere. It's a function of which sector are you operating? Are there statutory policies that you need? Get them. Okay, which industry are you? Are there industry-related policies? Get them. Then look for people who work in similar or sister organizations and rub minds. Much more importantly, pay attention. Policies typically are outcomes of either a problem, a challenge, or an opportunity. So it's not just because ABC has a policy, XYZ must duplicate it. You may not have the same experience, you may not have the same context, you may not have the same opportunity. All right. So I'd like to say sincerely, I don't take this for granted. We've been together for the last 2 hours. About 100 people joined this call at the peak. I'd like to thank you sincerely. Thank you so much. Once again, Madam Rita Babalola, for your inspiration. Thank you so much once again, Madam Adiola Adepega. It gladdens my heart when I see HR industry veterans, not occasionally, not sometimes, back to back, join learning sessions. Sometimes they are facilitating, sometimes they are just listening, many times they are also contributing. It shows me that the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And your humility and openness of heart encourages people like me and many of us on this call. Madam Adeola Adepegba, God bless you. Madam Rita Babalola, God bless you. Mr. Frank Elume, God bless you. All my brothers and sisters, God bless you. Please.
God bless you too.
Thank you, my sister.
God
Please,
bless
let's have a very productive week. Bye.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you.
Amen. Amen.
Good
Amen.
night.